Welcome to Marketing Today. I'm your host, Alan Hart, managing partner of Atomic, combining brand science and creative fire. Today on the show, I've got Russ Findlay, Executive Vice President, Head of Marketing at Hiscox Insurance. Russ recently won the 2016 CMO Club Growth Award, which recognizes demonstrated leadership in the development and implementation of new strategies, tools, and programs resulting in significant company growth. We talk about his transition from consumer packaged goods at Unilever, PepsiCo, among others like IHOP, Major League Soccer, into the financial services world and why he chose to go there. Well, Russ, welcome to the show. I was wondering if you could start off by just telling me a little bit about your role and what Hiscox is all about.
Sure, thanks, Alan. Well, Hiscox is a specialty insurance carrier based in London. We started about 115 years ago, part of the Lloyd's of London branch of carriers. We provide insurance coverage for some specialty lines, some special, very unique niche sets of risks. And my role is the EVP and head of marketing for Hiscox in the USA. And so that role in marketing is responsible for the overall brand, the communications, the PR, the creative, all the direct response, our digital, our website, which we transact and sell policies to small business owners over the internet. So there's an e-commerce aspect to it. There's a traditional branding and direct response marketing.
Great. Now, your background is not in financial services. I was looking at your background, and you've done everything from CPG, Unilever, PepsiCo. You worked at Major League Soccer as the head of marketing, and IHOP. Why financial services?
Yeah, right. Yeah, they did all those that you mentioned, plus with the addition of insurance, doesn't necessarily sound like it really stitches together cleanly for a career path. But I guess for a couple things, I'll get to the relatability and why I landed in insurance in a second. But I think that there actually is some things that hold all those different companies together, which is really in large part, Alan, the type of distribution that they have. So now that I'm in insurance and I talk to insurance brokers, they're our route to market. Previously, the same people who were our route to market when I was in the restaurant world at IHOP, they were called our franchisees. And prior to that, at Major League Soccer, our route to market from the league was the teams and the team owners. And even prior to that, at PepsiCo, our distribution center was through our PepsiCo bottlers. So there's an awful lot of similarity, not so much the product, but how the product gets to market and marketing's role in working with those intermediaries to get that product to market. The conversations are extraordinarily similar. So my background in CPG and sports and being a restaurateur actually did prepare me to be, I guess, successful in the insurance space. And as far as getting into the insurance space, it's something that I've always wanted to do an intangible. So I've always kept my eye on and looked at, say, the financial services industry as a whole, and nothing necessarily popped up on my radar, but I always kept it in the back of my mind. And the other thing that I liked about the insurance space is that it's actually regulated. So I looked at all of these opportunities as what's one of the harder challenges in marketing that I could undertake, and something that is an intangible product in a heavily regulated industry, and with a brand that's relatively unknown, that felt like a real challenge. And when I posed that challenge to several people in the recruiting business, one of them actually came back and asked me if I had ever heard of a company called Hiscox. And so I said no, which I took as a good sign of an unknown brand. So, away we went.
Describe a little bit more about the intangible and the switch, if you don't mind, from tangible products, especially in the consumer packaged goods world, to now intangibles.
Sure. I think that, again, as a marketing challenge, having a product that you can't see it, you can't hold it, you can't go to a store and look at it, et cetera. It's something that you have to convey to the consumer in the consumer's mind, if you will. So that makes storytelling and how you bring the product to life even more important in making the brand perceivable and trustworthy and known and so forth. it really adds an extra element of I guess pressure, if you will, to the marketeer in terms of being able to convey all those things that you want to get across without the benefit of being able to point to this physical thing that you can hold up and say, look at this and feel this and touch this. Or if you're a car manufacturer, just come and look at it, come and drive it, come and experience it, tactile kind of way. Those things aren't available in the insurance world, and in many cases, the financial services world more broadly. So it did seem like it was a very unique opportunity to gather all that you are as a marketeer and say, well, I've done these things in the CPG world. We've got a tangible product, and now am I able to replicate that and do the same types of things in a world where you don't have the luxury of having a product that you can look at and touch and feel.
Well, before we get too far, I want to say congrats on your 2016 CMO Club Growth Award. My understanding of those awards is they're nominated by someone from the CMO Club member base. So essentially, your peers are the ones that nominated you and put you forward for that award. Curious, what does an award like that mean to you?
Well, firstly, it came as a complete shock to me. I got an email from a coworker who said, "Hey, congratulations! You just were nominated to this, and you're a finalist in this award category." Like I said, it was news to me that it was going on, so I had to go and check into it for myself. Of course, I'm familiar with the CMO Club. While I'm not a member of it, it's an invite-only club. The CMO Club is quite well known, so. It means an awful lot. I'm very, very, very humbled by the fact that somebody inside that club would think enough of what we're doing here at Hiscox and how we're doing it and so forth, and even consider Hiscox to be nominated to do that. So it's very exciting.
What do you think it is that you were nominated for around growth?
I think that the way we're doing marketing is unlike some of the other aspects of the insurance world. And I think that the growth we've seen as a result of some of what we've been doing have perhaps been unique, I guess. So to be able to do that in a way that is noteworthy or stands out maybe slightly has been, I guess it must have caught somebody's eye. I guess one of the things that we do, I suppose, we don't just stick to the typical tools of marketing in the financial services space, if you will.
So can you tell me more about that? How are you, venturing out beyond the standard tools?
Yeah. Sure. So for example, one of the things that we've done is we have sponsored a number of podcasts. So to some categories, podcasts are, they're kind of on the fringe. They're not really well known. They're a small form of media that is just starting to take off. And others are sort of waiting for a proof of concept before they decide to investigate or spend money further. We looked at it and said, boy, it's a really interesting way of getting our point across and bringing our brand to life. And we've got an awful lot of small businesses that we insure that may want to be showcased in what we've done for them and what they've done and how they've gotten into business and so forth. So we both sponsored some podcasts that really focused in on small business as a subject. And then additional to that, we also produced our own podcast. And in both these instances, whether it was sponsored or whether it was produced, we made our small business insureds the subject of the conversation. We've gathered stories of our small business insureds because we invite them to tell us their stories, and we chronicle them and put them in our blogs and talk about them in several other ways. But when we were able to bring them to life in a podcast and share them with hundreds of thousands of other people who were downloading these podcasts, it really started to come to life. That's a small way that we do that. We also, when we do some sponsorships of certain events, we also invite our small business insureds to play a part in it. So for example, a year ago we were a sponsor of a brand called Tough Mudder. It's an adventure race series, and in the discovery phase, as we were going through this process of getting to know each other and thinking about a potential sponsorship, they said that one of the things that their brand is well known for are these really large obstacles, and they've got a whole entire department that spends a lot of time and energy designing these really notable obstacles. And I said, well, gosh, we have thousands of architects and engineers that buy their insurance through us. How about we create a contest and you design the parameters, we'll offer it to our architects and engineer clients and see if they want to partake in it. And so long story short, we opened up we created a contest, opened up this opportunity to our insureds. We cut down significantly on the number of hours that the Tough Mudder team needed to spend ideating and creating some of these new obstacles, because it was a contest that we ran through our business, and we had a whole bunch of our architects and engineers that went ahead and submitted plans, and ultimately one of them won this contest. So Tough Mudder got a design that they felt very comfortable with because they actually made it and now use it. And our Hiscox insured architect got a lot of notoriety, and we took out a full page ad on behalf of them, congratulating them in a trade magazine specific to architecture. So hopefully they won more business off the back of that. Another very small example, very quick example, would be where we sponsored the Austin Film Festival. When we went down there, because we are one of the major players in media and entertainment insurance, we knew we wanted to chronicle some of the events down there, and so we sent an email to all of the Hiscox insured small business owners that were in media and entertainment down in the metro Austin area, asking them if anyone was a small film producer, and asking them if we can hire them for the week to come and shoot some footage, package up some content for us, and so forth. And we were really overwhelmed with the responses. They wanted to get some work, but also just to find out, hey, who are these people that I insure my business through? So it was really great for them, great for us. And so it's, again, that's a little bit of a few, very few short, unconventional ways that we try to go to market and create a point of difference for ourselves and also for our customers.
It's great. I love the participation component of that with both prospects and customers, whether it's designing the new obstacle for Tough Mudder or filming in a film festival or around a film festival. There's nothing. I can't think of another way you can put your clients first in that regard, essentially helping them make money or potentially make money.
Right.
One of the things that caught my eye was your tagline, "Encourage Courage" for Hiscox. That is not the typical positioning of an insurance provider. So I'm just curious, what was the motivation behind that?
Yeah, thanks. It's we're really proud of the Encourage Courage brand platform. It really sprung out of the fact that at the center of our core set of values is this value for us to always challenge convention. And so when we started to look at how we would brand our company in the U.S., part of that exercise was to look at the competition. And what it became, when we looked at the ads of our competitors, and really all the insurance carriers by and large, what we looked at was a set of ads that, taken all together, they almost all of them were talking about what people had to lose if they didn't buy insurance versus what they had to gain if they did. So in short, they look like they were to be honest, they look like they're kind of a bunch of fearmongers, and we didn't really want to have anything to do with that. I personally wanted nothing to do with it, and so we felt there must be a better way to talk about what we offered versus just motivating somebody through fear of losing something. So we put our heads together and said, right, well, look, we'd much rather be celebrating the positive power of risk versus the paralyzing power of risk. We thought about, well, what is the other side of that coin? And the fact that risk is a very, very frequently used word in the business. We couldn't talk about risk so much, so we talked about the antidote to risk, which is courage. And then after that, the platform, the line, Encourage Courage, was born. And it really boils down to what somebody can do and how motivated and inspired they can feel, knowing that they've got the backing of a brand, from insurance, but a brand that also feels empowering as well. So we want people to buy insurance and use that as a springboard to what more they can do. So not about what am I going to lose, but now that I've got this insurance, that does enable me to think differently, more broadly, more boldly about my business. I'm going to go and think about taking on that large client and not have any fear, or hire more people, or expand overseas or something else. So it really struck at the heart of us challenging convention in our own industry and looking at the industry and saying, yeah, we know we're there in times of loss, but we don't always have to talk about mitigating loss. We can talk about celebrating the positive nature of insurance. So that's what we're trying to convey.
Curious as well, through this challenging convention, both in how you position company in the products and services, but also what we talked about in terms of the types of tactics that you're employing to get your word out, get your message out. How is that driving growth for you? Or what are the types of things that you're hearing from agents and clients or customers?
Yeah, we get a lot of feedback from our agents and our clients, and invariably it's very, very positive. We had an agent call us or email us up and say, I think they were responding to some radio advertising on National Public Radio that we did in the summertime, and they emailed up and said, you've got some tremendous advertising. I feel really proud that you're making it easier for me to sell and represent your product line. So now people come in and ask me for it by name, not just me having to tell them that this is a company and have it explain who it is and so forth. So it's, our brokers and agents like it because it makes their job and their lives easier to represent and sell our product. The end insured, the people that ultimately get covered by our product, they like it because I think that the message is very inspirational. And I think in an intangible product in a category like this, which, I guess if I was being kind, I'd say it's a low interest category. If I was being, maybe a bit of a wise guy, I'd say it's more like a grudge purchase. And to have somebody say, no, actually, I really feel good about why I'm buying this insurance. And you as an insurance company, you really understand me, because that's how I feel. I feel I want to be inspired, and I feel as though I'm going at great lengths to build and drive my business. And to have somebody who understands them on that level is it really hits home with these businesses. So it's very positive.
As an entrepreneur myself, when I look at the messaging that you have, I think to myself, wow, these are like-minded people. They get me. And I think I'm always more likely to do business with folks like that. So I imagine that's playing out very well for you. So Russ, you were talking about, this new tagline, this new positioning around encourage courage, and all the great work that you're doing to kind of challenging the conventional ways that insurance companies go to market. How is the CMO's role as an influencer, both up, down, and sideways within the organization? How does that work for you? Because I know there's a lot of CMOs that struggle with this. And I'm just curious what tips or how you think about it.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Alan. I think that when you are trying to do, it could be any brand positioning, but especially with our brand positioning and encourage courage. I guess one thing to think of to mention to the audience is encourage courage for us. It's not an advertising campaign. It's not a strap line or a tagline or anything else like that. It really is. It's the essence of what we're trying to build and be as a company. So it's really deep rooted. And when you're trying to do something like that, something of that magnitude, where you're trying to reach in and affect the soul of the company, and you need to really, really make sure that you have brought others, and I mean when I say others, I mean everybody along with you. So internal, external, and when I say internal, your other fellow executives, that they're bought in, and you've solicited and gained their commitment to helping drive this message, because you can't do it by yourself. That's one thing that if you expect to be, you and your department expect to be the only people talking about this, then it's going to be a very, very difficult road, and it probably won't work. This needs to be deeply seated. So you need to work effectively across all of the different functions. So firstly, up in terms of getting buy-in from either your board or the next layer or two layers above wherever you sit. Certainly soliciting the other functional heads to ensure that they're doing their part and make it easy for them, map it out for what you want them to do. Mm-hmm. And then getting into the operations, making it very, very visible. So this is sort of the across piece. Getting with your chief operating officer, your head of IT, to make sure that your brand platform, in our case, Encourage Courage, is visible at various touch points along the way. So it's this constant reminder of, this is what we stand for. This is where we're going. So in Hiscox, when you turn the computer on in the morning, Encourage Courage is what pops up, and we have advertising and so forth and creative in our inside of all of our offices. We've changed all the doors to say Encourage Courage, and it just goes on and on and on.
Wow, it's a daily reminder.
It's a constant reminder. It is a constant reminder, and even I've got a channel marketing team, and they create content that makes it easier for our underwriters to have a conversation with their brokers about what we stand for as a company. So helping our underwriters sort of spoon feed them very, very quick pieces of information that they can talk to their broker about to reinforce what Encourage Courage means to us. And then obviously, down into certainly my own department, my own organization, but also even further than that, instilling in my team and others that if they're talking to their agency partners, that there's absolute clarity on what we mean by Encourage Courage and what we want to see them help us with in Encourage Courage. So our PR and comms team, they've got one set of they've got one set of goals. Our creative agency, they've got a set of goals. They all ladder back up to supporting Encourage Courage, but what it is that they will do to do that is different. And then lastly, as we talked about before, soliciting some help in sort of community building, if you will, with our small business insureds. They certainly know and see and feel this whole idea and concept of Encourage Courage, and we invite them to share with us their version of Encourage Courage. How do they start their business? Why do they start their business? And we've got some incredible stories. So it is this somewhat virtuous circle where we stand for something very firmly and we believe in it. So it's not just what we do, it's more important that we talk about why we do it. And that's not for everybody, which is fine. But the people that we reach and touch this way, it's really powerful. So I think the CMO needs to sit at the center of all of that and make sure that they are always vigilant in keeping that in their mind. A person I admire very much once said to me, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And what he meant at the time, and this is quite an elderly guy, I'm sure he's I almost know, I'm positive he's gone now, but what he meant by that was always focus on the things that are most important. When I think about Encourage Courage, that to me is the main thing. And if we can continue to talk about what we stand for, why we believe that this is really important, and being able to ensure that is inculcated in every aspect of our business, and using that to drive awareness, drive brand affinity, drive demand for our product, that will go a long way to building our business.
So shifting gears a bit, kind of pivoting away from Hiscox, we last talked about the role of CMO and really how that role needs to be oriented towards growing the next crop of marketers. And I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about that and our listeners, kind of in your own words. What you seem very passionate about that, and I want to kind of get that out there.
I think that the role of a CMO, or the role of any leader, the way I grew up in the business, it was told to me at an early age, look, your job as a leader is to make more leaders. And so if you're not doing that, then you may be a marketeer, you may be in the function, but you're not leading the function. And so developing that next generation of really high quality marketeers, to me, that really is your legacy, and that's what's going to benefit the craft of marketing. I think in I think in marketing and in general, the advertising marketing world, whether you're on the client side or the agency side, this function broadly stated, people look at the work as their legacy. So you talk to people on the agency side, the creatives, they'll say, "Hey, let me show you my reel. Let me show you my reel of work, right?
Right.
Or just a body of work that they've created over time. Like an artist will flip through their book of work. And on the client side, a CMO or a senior marketing person would talk about their life's work as, let me tell you all the brands that I worked on. And let me tell you about the brands that I launched. And I guess for me, I look at it, while those two things are important, the ads and the creative to me has always been just a tool in my marketing toolkit to build the business. And the brands that we launch and run and nurture, again, it's a tool to help further build the business. But I think for me, and I guess my hope for all the other chief marketing officers or aspiring CMOs is that you're only going to get that, and it's going to make your job a whole lot easier if what you really focus on is your people and developing them to be the best that they can be. They're going to make your brands great and the best that they can be. They're going to deliver you great creative and so forth. So to me, it's a real personal passion of mine to develop great people, the best to get them where they want to get to and have them be the best marketers that they can be. Because at the end of your time as a marketing head, that's, you're gonna look back and say, look at all these people that are now in very senior positions and doing great things, and I helped them get where they wanted to get to. So to me, it's an immensely satisfying part of my job. I love the developing brands and shooting great creative, but to me, it all boils down to the people.
Is there a couple things you might inspire, a CMO to do? Or you think all CMOs should be doing these couple of things?
Well, I think firstly, it's an acknowledgement. I think all CMOs should be taking developing their people really seriously. Look, even if you're not in a industry or at a company where marketing is the center of gravity, that's probably even more important for you to take developing your people seriously, because the company's training and hiring and decision making isn't going to be centered around your team and your people. So taking it upon yourself to go and develop the skills along with them, or getting them outside help, webinars, seminars, et cetera. Join a marketing trade association, join the ANA or the BMA or one of those two, or others, and really make development of your team a real priority, not just something to do and run it off the corner of your desk, or if you have time or if you have budget. I mean, really just make it a priority. It'll pay off for you, and I think people will find it rewarding as well. So I would say, really take it seriously. Seek out other CMOs or other people that you think are doing it well, and look to them for some inspiration and shortcuts and tips and hints as well.
So we're talking about the future marketers. I'm curious, what do you see for the future of marketing, the function itself?
Yeah, I think that there's, marketing is one of those functions I found over the years that I find it very helpful. That marketing has always been, at least my 25 plus years doing this, it's always been a function that's had to change rapidly. And so I think that's a very, very good thing, a very healthy thing for us in this function, is that we've had to adapt to new challenges and new opportunities, whether it's, shifting media landscape, shifting regulatory environment, shifting conversation between the client side and the agency side, and how agencies are structured and how you get work done and so forth. I think all of that's been immensely helpful for us to adapt to change more quickly, and therefore be able to seek out new opportunities more quickly. So I think that's been a really good, just almost a baked in process, a skill that the marketeers in the US and probably around the world as well have really developed. That's one thing. The second thing is that we continue to have to harness and leverage new technologies. It's been long said that marketing is always a blend of art and science. And I think that is I think it's true. I think there's an awful lot of skill that needs to be deployed using just the creative, being able to see the forest through the trees and knowing what is motivational and so forth. And over the past, say, 15 years, I guess, there's been more and more data and analytics and quantitative aspect to the function. And I think that that's also a very, very good thing. I think for me, if I were to think about the future, I would sum it up by saying, I think there's this ever increasing slant towards the science versus the art. If it was, if back in the day, it was, like the Mad Men days way back, it was, a lot more art than science. And maybe it's, slightly more science than art. I guess what I would say to younger marketeers is, focus on the science because that's where the future is, but focus on the art because that's where the magic is.
I like that. So if you think about other brands or companies that you look to or think about in terms of what they're doing, find interesting, etc., who comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I think I try to consume as much broad media as possible, and I tend to sadly I tend to skip through the content and just of like what the programming is and just look at the ads more than I look at the what's being what the TV or radio content is. And I think that there's an awful lot of good stuff happening with nonprofits. I think that oftentimes nonprofits get pro bono work done by creative agencies. Not always, but some of them do. If you get an agency that has a particular cause that they want to get behind, and with nonprofits, you do sometimes get the opportunity to be a bit more creative and bold and breakthrough and so forth. So you get some agency creatives that really are letting loose because they've got a client that will allow them to do that. So I look at a lot of the public service nonprofits as doing some really excellent work. I look at things like General Electric. To be honest, I think Linda Boff, who's their CMO, I think that she has really helped General Electric pivot from being this essentially a financial industrial. GE Capital was such a huge portion of their business to reinvent themselves to being as they say, a digital industrial, world's first digital industrial, and making that pivot in a way that can seem believable for such a huge, huge company, a real behemoth. And the amount of money that they spend, not even money, I shouldn't say, because they have a lot of it, but the amount of energy and research and testing that GE puts into new forms of media and marketing is impressive. Mm. And so they're always trying to stay on the cutting edge of what's working and what's available to them for new tools that they can leverage. Because you never really know what's going to work and what's not going to work until you test it. And I think there's another company in the UK that usually does some pretty inspiring work. It's a retailer, John Lewis. Mm-hmm. They always tend to make a holiday ad.
Yes, yeah, I've seen the holiday ad.
And those tend to be heartwarming and they tug on your emotional heartstrings and all that kind of jazz. But so they're known for that. But they also have some pretty clever ads that they run throughout the course of the year, and it always does tie back and halo to their brand and how they want consumers to think and feel about that particular retailer. So I look at those, and then there's a few others. I look at Zappos and what they are trying to continue to do to build their brand. Nike always does inspiring work. I look to them for some new and interesting kind of work. How they try to get new traction and replay, and reinvent how to inspire athletes. So those are a handful of ones that I tend to gravitate to and look at.
Now, thinking about you personally, I'm curious, what fuels you? What fuels your success or drives you?
Well, for me, I have just an immense amount of passion and respect for the craft of marketing. I mean, I really, really love it. It's an art form, but you get to use both sides of your brain, the art and the science that we talked about before. It is just an immense amount of work to get it right, but it is incredibly satisfying when you do get it right. And I really enjoy the process of getting it right. It is a multi-dimensional mixed bag of skills that you need to get good at. And I guess for me, I often talk about building a brand the way somebody builds a house. Probably not just because I put myself through college building houses, but because I think it's an apt portrayal of the job of a marketeer. The way somebody needs to use all the tools in their toolkit. They can't just possess the tools. They can't go out and just buy the tool bag, buy the tools, and call themselves, a builder or a craftsman. They need to know how to use each of those tools and in what order, and how they can maybe use the tool slightly differently to get it to do what they want it to do, even though the tool may not be exactly defined or designed to do that. So, but what you end up with is, you have a vision, like a set of blueprints, and then you ultimately end up with a finished house. And I think that the same way is true. So I think part of what drives me is being able to really utilize all of those different skills between going and acquiring the skill, honing and refining that, and then being able to apply it in a way that really motivates people. And ultimately, it creates demand for your product. And to see that happen is immensely satisfying. And I think the second thing for me is that while I just kind of talked a fair amount about how much I love marketing, to me, I've always thought of myself as being a business builder that happens to have a specialty in marketing. But my primary mindset is, I'm gonna build a business, and the maybe extra special contribution that I'm going to add is I've got a slant towards consumer behavior, consumer understanding, building a brand, et cetera. And so those two things together, that's what keeps me up at night. I mean, I absolutely love what I'm doing, and the company we're doing some really good things. So as I tell my team sometimes, I can't sleep on Sunday because I can't wait for Monday.
That's great. Well, thank you, Russ, for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Alan. Thanks for having me.